Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sunday's edition of Weekend Waypoints, a production of SEC Extra and D1Baseball.com. Jam-packed show today. I have a feeling, a lot to get to, results, some drama on the field, just a lot going on Saturday in the SEC. So we'll recap all of that here in just a minute. But first, I have to let you know that this Sunday episode of Weekend Waypoints, as all of our Sunday episodes are, is brought to you by Active Wealth Management. Ford Stokes and Sam Davis are the guys over there at Active Wealth Management. They got connected with them a few weeks back. Been enjoying bringing them information to you from them. A couple things to remember about that. Ford and Sam are fiduciaries and look forward to helping you better protect your hard-earned and hard-saved wealth. Visit annuity360.net to get Ford's book, Annuity 360, at no cost to you. Ford's team will send you his autographed book for free. Visit annuity360.net for that. These guys also have a radio show in Atlanta, Ford and Sam. You can listen to any of their radio show and podcast episodes at retirementresults.com. It's the number one listened to show on the weekends in Atlanta. Check it out at retirementresults.com. And then finally, we always have that call to action at the bottom of the screen there. Visit activewealth.com and click schedule a consultation to get a free 401k review, a $1,500 value at no cost to you. Okay, yeah, we have we have a lot to get to here, and my buddy over at SEC Baseball, one of a must follow on Twitter, or X, if you will, messages on X. Joe, did anything happen in Starkville last night? Haven't seen much news. Yeah, let's get to that. It was the game of the day. Georgia 3, Mississippi State 2. Before we actually talk about what happened on the field, let's talk about, well, I guess this also happened on the field, but let's talk about the stuff that didn't impact the result as much, right? So first, I would urge you, if you want the really nitty gritty details of what happened here, I would suggest going to, some of the local folks, on the state side, Robbie Falk, Steve Robertson, guys like that. On the Georgia side, Anthony Dasher, and read their stories from the game, because those guys were following it much closer than I was. I, was following the game, but kind of heard about some of the details after, didn't see the initial deal with Johnny Long and Dylan Carter at the plate. Wilkes Skelton on X says, sorry, Joe, going to have to eject you for that ad read. And that is a good segue, because I did about as much wrong there as some of the players who were ejected in that game, especially on the state side, did to get ejected. So well done, Wilkes. Yeah. So that's the deal. Play at the plate, Dylan Carter, Johnny Long, little bit of a deal afterward. That's going to happen, but Johnny Long, knees Dylan Carter a couple of times, and you can't do that. Like, no matter what was said, you really can't do that. I mean, so that at least that one makes a little bit of sense. If you want to eject Johnny Long, I also would have been okay if you just said, hey, it's the 8th inning or whatever of an close SEC game. It's tied at this point. Like, let's play on. Okay. Like, what that part's whatever. Like, I feel like you could interpret that either way, and reasonable people would be like, okay, that works. The issue is that then the bench is clear. You get a whole bunch of people out there, kind of typical benches clearing situation. No real like punches thrown or any sort of escalation. And honestly, the lack of escalation was due to some of the players kind of converging on the situation and playing peacemaker. Well, the issue with that is that then this goes to a review, and not a let's review a play at first base kind of quick review where it's like, takes a minute and, what have you. This was a 40-something minute review, while a video crew back in Birmingham reviewed the tape of this like some sort of crime scene, where they tried to interpret who should stay in the game, who should be ejected, just by looking at it again, which, mind you, these guys aren't on the field. So they can watch the video, but they don't have the feel for who is de-escalating, who is escalating, any of that kind of stuff. So anyway, long story short, a number of ejections happened. It creates some absurd situations where, Josh Robert is a reliever for Georgia, is playing left field at some point. Brian Zeldin, who was in the game as a reliever, ends up having to bat at some point. Nolan Stevens is a two-way guy, but Nolan Stevens ends up, in the field for Mississippi State. So, the guys end up getting moved around. where we left it last night was it, hey, rule is you get ejected, you're suspended a game, or for pitchers, 4 games. And so we're looking at, hey, the Sunday game, State's lineup in particular might have, hardly anybody in it, right? It might be a lot of backup players and maybe some guys playing out of position. But an update of that on that as of this morning, I saw Zack Selman, the Mississippi State AD, put out a statement where he called it, I should have had it pulled up here, but basically called it absurd. Actually, let me just pull it up because I don't want to butcher it or put words in his mouth. I'll just read it over the air here. The process and outcome of last night's 8th inning in our game against Georgia was absurd, ridiculous, and embarrassing on so many levels. I understand why so many are outraged, as am I. After hours of thorough dialogue and facts presented, our entire roster will be available to play today, with the exception of number 18, that's Johnny Long, that's me saying that, and number 40, that's Logan Kohler. We will always fight for our players, for our fans, and for Mississippi State. This is no exception. We will continue to seek answers and explanations as to why this was handled in the manner it was during the game. So I guess if you're a State fan, the good news is here, okay, you're going to miss Johnny Long. You might have figured that would be the case anyway. I'm not exactly sure why Logan Kohler. I don't know. But fair enough. Like it could have been a whole lot worse considering the fiasco we had last night. Carl Dunn on YouTube, LSU fan. And Carl, we'll get to LSU, of course, here shortly. But he says the umpires handled it terribly. Never should have been reviewed. Totally agree. Like, I don't know why we needed to go back and like do the Zapruder film kind of deal on that. So I'm actually more interested in the process. I mean, yes, the way it was actually handled was, in terms of doling out the suspensions, was kind of, or the ejections was kind of bizarre. But I am fascinated by the process of that. Like, why couldn't the umpires on the field have just kind of sorted it out on their own? And sure, maybe that also led to some ejections that didn't make any sense, but at least it was the umpires on the field who'd been in that game, right? Instead, it's a bunch of guys who weren't at that game, and so didn't understand kind of the ebbs and flows of it, and where some of the escalation and de-escalation was. It just felt strange. So I'm with you, Carl. Like I don't understand why it needed to be. Maybe there's something I don't know. Like, I will admit that I'm ignorant on some of this stuff, but I just don't understand why that was necessary. So I'm fascinated to learn a little more about this process once more information comes to light. Okay, let's talk about the game real quick, which was also dramatic in and of itself. You had a 2-2 game. Clayton Chadwick, who probably was like on the verge of being ejected. There's actually a still shot you can see where Clayton Chadwick is standing like on the grass around the dirt circle by home plate. And if he's one step forward, he's in the dirt circle. And I've seen speculation that because he was not actually in the dirt circle, he was allowed to continue in the game. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't think any of us know exactly what's true on that. So anyway, he stays in the game. He hits a home run in the 9th inning. And that's enough for Georgia to win 3-2 to even that series. We've got a rubber game coming up this Sunday afternoon. Liz V on YouTube says review is initiated because Georgia challenged based on malicious contact on the slide. After that, Birmingham initiated the malicious conduct review themselves. Yeah, so that's well put, Liz. I'm just kind of fascinated by if that's the way we're doing this, and if that review was handled, let's just say correctly, and I'm using air quotes, why do we do that? Like, why are we doing an off-site review that takes 40-something minutes? Like, if nothing else, that needs to get cleaned up. We can't have 40-minute breaks in the 8th inning of a tie ball game. Like, that's absurd. So yeah, it's that you've nailed it there in terms of why it happened. It's just like, that seems like bad process, but I guess we're going to learn this all together as time goes on. So I'm just making sure, going over my notes here, I haven't missed any detail here I wanted to pass along, but the wording that we got on some of the suspension, the original ejections was, players leaving their position, which is kind of funny to me that you'd have a bench clearing situation and you've got like a shortstop who's just like, nope, I'm going to stand right here. Not going to move. I'm just going to let those guys duke it out. Don't want to get ejected, which of course no one's going to do that. Like, that's human nature. You're going to go jump in with your guys and protect your guys or try to de-escalate or whatever it is. So anyway, moving on. 3-2 win for Georgia. Drama, both in terms of the result and in terms of the craziness there. I'm sure this story will continue to unfold, and we'll learn a little more about the how and the why and what have you as time goes on. Okay, let's move on to player of the day here. Big day offensively for a number of guys. As always, we'll start with some nominees. Trey Phelps for Georgia, 3 for 4 with a double. That's a guy, Trey Phelps, not among the names you would expect to hear as guys who are leading Georgia offensively, but a big day yesterday in that 3-2 win. Tennessee had a bunch of guys with big days in their 7-inning run rule win over Auburn to even that series up. So we have Christian Moore, 3 for 5 with a double, a home run, 6 runs batted in. Dylan Dreiling and Dalton Bargo both hit 2 home runs. And then Blake Burke, he had just 1 hit, but it was a home run. And now he is Tennessee's, believe it or not, I was kind of surprised by this. He is Tennessee's all-time home run leader now. And a couple things there. One is just, Tennessee's a program. First of all, they've been playing baseball a long time. Second of all, it was a program that was pretty good at a time when the bats, like in the 90s and early 2000s, were really hot. So I'm kind of surprised that there wasn't, some guy in 1997 through 99 who just had a bunch of home runs. So it's Blake Burke. And then what is also surprising about that is that he's really only played 2 full seasons at this point. This is his 3rd season, but remember, he had less than 100 at-bats as a freshman. Now he had 14 home runs. It's part of why he's the all-time home run leader. But, so he had half a season then, all of last year, and then half a season now. So really 2 full seasons to be the all-time home run leader. So congrats to Blake Burke there. Christian Moore, by the way, not too far behind him. Now, those guys, if Christian Moore stays hot, I mean, those guys could be, 1 and 2 in all-time home runs at Tennessee by the time they're done, which would be kind of amazing when you consider the history there. Braden Montgomery for Texas A&M. A&M goes up 2-0 in that series over South Carolina on the road. Big road series win there, backing up them being number 3 in the country, doing what I thought they could do. If you're the number 3 team in the country, you're going to have to win some of these tough road series, and they go out there to South Carolina and do it. Braden Montgomery, 2 for 3 with 2 walks, so reach base 4 times there. Did a good job getting to A&M did to Tyler Pitzer, the freshman right-hander who'd been pretty good for South Carolina. They got to him early. Now, not a great start for Tanner Jones, but the A&M bullpen really stepped up. We'll talk about some of that when we get to the pitcher of the day accolades here. Jaden Davis for Vanderbilt, 3 for 4 with 2 doubles in the series clinching victory for Vanderbilt over LSU, a 13-3 win there. Kendall Diggs for Arkansas, as Arkansas finished off the sweep of Ole Miss. He was 3 for 5 in the game. Yeah, Ole Miss now falls to 3-9. It gets increasingly difficult to see. This is different than LSU, right? So LSU, is struggling as well. Like we understand that they are also 3-9. However, LSU reminds me a little more of 2022 Ole Miss. Now that's not saying they're going to go win the national title, although who knows. But they're similar to that team in that they're sitting here at 3-9, and we're kind of all like, why are they not better? Like the tough schedule is part of it, but everybody's got a tough schedule in the SEC. But why are they not winning more? Like the talent should be. This team should win more based on its talent. With Ole Miss, it's more like this might actually be who they are. Like it's harder to see a path forward for Ole Miss. I mean, they kind of went opener in the finale, and just use a bunch of bullpen. They're still struggling to get good starts on the weekend, and it's not like the offense is doing a whole lot to bail them out either. So it's getting increasingly difficult as time goes on to see a path where Ole Miss is the clear-cut regional contender. And frankly, it's starting to get to the point, especially now that Missouri has won a series, suddenly that the race to avoid missing Hoover again starts to get really, really interesting there for Ole Miss, and that's obviously not a place they want to be. So we'll see what happens as they move on. But the co-players of the day, and I made them co-players of the day for 2 reasons. One is that they had the exact same stat line. So Nolan Souza of Arkansas and Braden Holcomb of Vanderbilt, both 3 for 5 with 2 home runs and 5 runs batted in. But I also linked them together because they are both freshmen who, when they are playing well, really give those lineups additional length and some extra depth. And, Souza's been a guy who's been pretty impactful for Arkansas this year, but Braden Holcomb's a guy who struggled to get consistent playing time. But he started to show signs lately of breaking out and starting to figure it out. And so that's interesting because it's almost like calling a player up for the minor leagues halfway through the season, which obviously you can't do in college. But if Holcomb is this kind of guy the rest of the year, that's kind of what it's going to feel like. Early in the season, I thought he was going to be a key piece all season. That hasn't been the case, but now maybe we're seeing a little bit of a different side of him. So Nolan Souza, Braden Holcomb, the co-players of the day from Saturday. Okay, a few more comments here. Carl Dunn on YouTube. That's a shocker with Todd Helton having been at Tennessee with Blake Burke being the all-time. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Like if it's and he wasn't a power hitter, but Chris Burke was the SEC Player of the Year, right? At a time when home runs were a dime a dozen in college baseball. Now I guess not too different from now, but yeah, I mean they've had good players, so it was kind of surprising that Blake Burke had got to it so quickly, I guess. And then Jeremy Scott on Facebook, Roll Tide as always. Jeremy jumps in here with that. And then basketball season is over and avoid the sweep today. Yeah, valiant effort last night for the Arkansas men's basketball team. I watched most of the second half of that game anyway, and made it competitive. That was kind of all I was asking for. The final score doesn't totally capture how competitive that game was for most of the time. So well done there for the Alabama men's basketball team, giving us a competitive game against UConn. Chase Styles on Facebook, he drops in a gig 'em. Yep, big weekend for the Aggies. Like I said, road series win against a good team. I don't know how great is probably a little too strong for South Carolina right now, but a good team certainly. And Texas A&M gets a series win there. Okay, pitcher of the day. Let's go through some of these options here. Carter Holton, Vanderbilt, 6 innings pitched, 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 of them earned, no walks, 10 strikeouts. A very good outing to finish off that series win over LSU. Javen Pimental from Missouri, as he helped lead the Tigers to another win over Florida, another 1-run victory, 2-1, and now 4-3. Tough couple of days offensively for Florida. That's concerning. That they got some guys scuffling. They've got I've said it for a few weeks now that the bottom third of that order hasn't produced all season. Florida's going to have to figure something out. I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and just bludgeon Missouri today, especially with Cags on the mound, because they're going to have an advantage on the mound because Missouri has fired, it's most of its best bullets at this point on the mound. They just don't have the depth, but they've shown their quality the last couple of days, holding the Florida offense at bay and winning that series. But Pimental yesterday was quite good. 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. That lowered his ERA for the season to 2.48 overall, if I remember correctly, and 2.25 in conference. So, if you're a team that thinks you're gonna, if Missouri is on your team's schedule moving forward, like understand that like you're gonna have a tough customer in Javen Pimental, left-hander who sinks the ball, a ton of ground balls, got 2 inning-ending double plays in the first 3 innings of the game yesterday. So he's a tough customer, and the numbers really bear that out. Shane Sadeo in relief for A&M, 4 1/3 innings, 2 hits, no runs. Helped them there when they didn't get very much from Tanner Jones in his start. In the same game, Ty Good came on in relief and helped South Carolina deal with a short start from Tyler Pitzer. He threw 5 2/3 innings with 2 hits and 1 unearned run. Drew Beam for Tennessee, a 7-inning complete game because that was called early due to the run rule, but 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 runs, 1 of them earned, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. And then 2 pitchers in the same game again. Jurangelo Senja against Georgia, 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 runs, no walks, 8 strikeouts. Again, with the Georgia offense being as powerful and prolific as it is, that's a really impressive outing there. And then Brian Zeldin for Georgia in relief. He finished the game off 4 1/3 innings pitched, 3 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. He has been really, really good for Georgia in the bullpen this year. They found something there in the pin transfer, Brian Zeldin. Carl Dunn on YouTube. Jay Johnson is trying to find a way to take a game at Rocky Top next weekend. Yeah, the hits keep on coming. I mean, Tennessee is vulnerable in some ways. I mean, we saw how much AJ Causey struggled in the opener against Auburn this weekend. But yeah, I mean, going to Knoxville and trying to win a game is tough, and especially at a time when LSU kind of, at this point, the whole like don't get swept thing, like that we're past that with LSU. Like they need to start winning series. Like you can't just not get swept the rest of the way on the road and be in a good position. So here we are, 3rd season in a row. I saw this stat that 3 seasons ago at this point, State was 4-8 in conference, right? that sounds about right. 2-10 for Ole Miss last year, and then now 3-9 for LSU. So in that regard, they have followed in the path of State and Ole Miss, having tough seasons coming off of a national title. We'll see what the rest of the season holds for LSU. They certainly don't want to continue that trajectory. But the pitcher of the day is Dom Nyman for Kentucky, a complete game shutout against Alabama. So a not full 9-inning shutout, 3 hits, no walks, 7 strikeouts. He did it on 100 pitches. He continues to be just a revelation for Kentucky in the rotation. Kentucky now moves to 10-1 in SEC play. A sweep today would move them to 11-1. And hey, man, like, again, like, you got to give them credit. I know there's a lot of folks out there that kind of look for reasons to knock what Kentucky is doing, but they're just winning. And if you watched the game yesterday, and I watched some of it from the press box at Mizzou because it started before the Mizzou game, and it just looked like a team having a lot of fun. Like, they seem loose. You know, they seem like they're playing free and easy. There's a lot of smiles on the field. And look, when you're winning, that's easy to project. But I do think that matters. I do think that's something, so that they just continue to win in impressive fashion. So congrats to Dom Nyman on his performance. The game of the day today, it's Georgia at Mississippi State. I don't care who's pitching. I don't care what any of the matchup says. Like, A, it's a rubber game. And B, I'll be fascinated to see how things proceed in this situation. I actually imagine that, quickly before I finish up here, Carl Dunn says LSU has lost their first 4 series, the most in the modern era. That's crazy. Yeah, I guess I'm not too surprised by that because they've been such a good program for so long. However, to have never happened, yeah, that's kind of incredible. But I kind of suspect this Georgia and Mississippi State game today will be a little bit calmer, because I think both coaching staffs are going to instill in their players, like, hey, guys, look, this crew is going to be extra vigilant today, looking out for stuff. They might be a little touchy. The league office is clearly watching this series pretty closely. Let's be careful. Like, I do think that will be a thing today. So I would be surprised if we see fireworks. However, given how yesterday's game went, there's always a chance of that. I think the crowd's going to be electric. I mean, State fans don't need any extra reason to pack Dudy Noble, but now I do think there's like just a little extra juice with the fans that are going to be in the building today. So looking forward to that game, Georgia and Mississippi State. And like I said, oh, by the way, it's a rubber game of an important SEC series between 2 teams that are right now kind of fighting it out in a similar spot in the pecking order in the SEC. So big game in Starkville this afternoon. All right. That is going to do it for this edition of Weekend Waypoints, the Sunday morning edition of Weekend Waypoints, brought to you by Active Wealth Management. Again, visit activewealth.com and click schedule a consultation to get that 401k review, a $1,500 value, at no cost to you. Talk to Ford and Sam Davis over there and get started on your journey with them at Active Wealth Management. All right, enjoy the baseball today. We've got some good stuff on tap, and I will talk to you guys in this format again next week. Have a good one.